Hello and welcome to today's edition of Extraordinary Outcomes. I'm Shubhanjan Sarkar, your host and founder of Pitchling, the buyer-seller engagement platform. In 2013, Serious Decisions reported 60 to 70% of content churned out by B2B marketing departments today sits unused. IDC weighed in with their own concerning statistic. Sales team members don't use as much as 80% of the content that marketing generates. We all get the picture. But how to stop the bleed? In Pitchling, marketing team can build pitches to order for sales folks and have them along the creation journey so that every pitch ever created is made to order and used. Want to know more? Sign up for a free one-on-one session, link in the attachments. We continue to bring you the complete interviews that we recorded and aired earlier in the year with experts on the 5% conversion problem in B2B sales. Today, we bring you Amy Franco, the founder and CEO of Amy Franco Associates. With over 20 years of client-facing sales experience, Amy's career includes sales roles with global companies IBM and Lenovo before pivoting into entrepreneurship. Today, her firm works with mid-market technology and professional services organizations to grow sales results through both sales strategy and skill development programs. Her book, The Modern Seller, is an Amazon bestseller and was named a top sales book by Top Sales World. She's also recognized by LinkedIn as a top sales voice. Here is Amy Franco on the 5% problem. Amy, welcome to the show. I'm delighted to have you here and thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Subhanjan, I was really looking forward to this conversation. So it's great to be here and thank you for having me.
Before we move on and really dive in, because we really have a serious thing to talk about, tell us about you and the great work that you're doing.
Sure. So I am based in North America in the United States, and just a little bit about my background. The first 10 years of my career, I was in technology. So I had sales and client-facing roles at companies like IBM and Lenovo, and I primarily B2B, so enterprise, public sector, some mid-market customers, and I was responsible for selling personal computing technology, laptops, tablets, you name it. So that's really where I got my start. And then after about 10 years, I really had the entrepreneurial bug. I really think it has always been in my DNA to either start something or lead something. And so almost 15 years ago now, I started a consulting firm and I got into the learning and development space. I am that person who loves to go to conferences, which is why I'm really, really missing the opportunity to be with people right now. But I am someone who loves to learn. And so I was very fortunate to get into that field. And it has morphed and changed over the years, which is probably longer than we have time for today. But what it looks like today is I get the opportunity to work with mid-market sized organizations, primarily professional services, technology, insurance. Those are some of the key verticals that I work in. And I help sales leaders and sales professionals develop sales culture, develop their skills to help them be more successful in their organizations, to help their organizations grow. And I love the work that I get to do. And I love to work with sales leaders and sales professionals and help them to create success in their organizations and also create success personally.
Wonderful. I mean, I think this will be a great conversation because I can already sense that you will have a lot to contribute. So let's talk about this elephant in the room, which we basically don't like to talk about. And although I'll mention a 5% figure, we don't have to believe that number. But the fact is that lead to conversion in B2B sales is an abysmally low single digit number. If you keep some outliers, if you can keep some specific companies out of it, that's the general story. My question to you, Amy, to start this discussion is, what got us here?
That is an excellent question. So as I was thinking about you sharing the research piece of it, and it's interesting with the research side of things, we can always find ways to maybe spin the numbers that we see in research. And my challenge would be to someone who maybe doesn't believe those numbers, look at the numbers in your own organization. run your own numbers and look at what your conversion rates are, look at what your close rates are, how are you growing those clients that you have. Use your data too. But I would say you could probably, to maybe oversimplify a bit, we could probably categorize it into two big reasons why. There are the strategic reasons why and the tactical reasons why. I see the strategic reasons why as too much turnover in sales leadership roles. I also see it as the highest levels of leadership in an organization maybe not having a clear enough understanding of sales and the importance of sales in the organization. There was just a recent piece in Harvard Business Review to that point right there. And you have a sales culture problem. Organizations either don't have a sales culture or they're building the wrong sales culture. And what that does is it dovetails into the tactical problems that organizations see. So everything that you just said, conversions, lead conversions being low, close rates being low, the tactical skill development pieces aren't happening. So when you look at your organization strategically, you have to really honestly assess if you have the right sales culture and the right people, and then tactically assess, do I have the right people in the right roles with the right skills? So there's a lot of things that can go into unraveling why, but I bucketize it into strategic problems and tactical problems.
Let's talk about the strategic issues. One of the things you said is this huge turnover in sales leadership. Uh, I completely agree because the average VP of sales has an 18-month tenure. What can you do in 18 months, especially if you're running a large organization, which means the base numbers are really huge and you're expected to do some miracles there. But remember, you have 18 months.
And if it's a large organization, it takes you 18 months just to figure out which end is up before, in many cases. So that might be part of the problem in and of itself, which is the complexities of the organization that maybe a sales leader is going into, and also the individual's ability to be agile, to get up to speed as quickly as possible to figure out where he or she can make the most impact. But yeah, being in a role, and I've been on the receiving end of that in sales roles, and I have had friends and peers on the receiving end of that where they're literally getting a new manager, Sabanjan, every 18 months to 2 years. First line manager, second line manager. Really, really hard to be successful when you have all of that churn happening.
So first of all, I'll question the word leadership there, because if leaders didn't know, who is supposed to know, right? So there is some leader who is hiring this sales leader who they're going to fire after 18 months. So something is wrong in that whole space, right?
I think the why can probably be, you could probably take a look at a couple of reasons why. I would say first and foremost, one of the services that I've added to my organization over the last 3 months is Salesforce evaluation and assessment. And what I am learning from that is many organizations don't use a data-driven approach to hiring and skill development. So many times they might be hiring the wrong sales leader into the role because they don't quite know what they're looking for, or they put someone in the role that they like or is not equipped to be a leader. So you have some of that going on. Mm-hmm. I would also say that depending on the industry that you're in, and tech is probably one of the toughest industries for this. It seems to be, I can talk to a large organization or a small organization, and they tend to have similar problems with the turnover in sales leadership roles. When I look at LinkedIn profiles for some sales leaders, I see them turning over literally every 2 to maybe 4 years. Yes. So it's a habit that I think needs to be broken at the individual level and fixed at the individual level. But the organization also needs to make a concerted effort to say, we want to keep leaders in these roles longer, because the more sustainability you have in those roles with the right people, the more success you'll create.
Absolutely. So the next one I want to touch upon is the culture bit.
Yeah,
Most people have no idea what culture is, in the
yeah.
sense, what is the organization culture? How do you build one, and so on, right? So where is it actually impacting the outcome of the sales organization vis-a-vis the entire organization?
Yeah, so maybe I can give you a tactical example of
Sure.
that. So for our sales leaders and sales professionals that are watching or listening to this, think about if this has ever happened to you. You get to the fourth quarter of the year and you are close to making your number, and you are looking at all of your deals in the pipeline, and your organization says, we sell on value. We are consultative sellers. We don't sell on price. But you're sitting in the fourth quarter. You've got to get to a number, right? And you're just short of that number. So your product team, your sales team, your pricing team, whatever that is, gives you a whole bunch of incentives to pull deals in to the fourth quarter because it's going to help push you over the finish line. But those deals are going to erode your margins. That's a very tactical example of a culture that says, on one hand, we value high value selling, consultative selling, but on the other hand, we got to pull some deals in, and we're going to erode our margins to do so. And now you've set yourself up for challenges in the future with that customer because now you've lowered the bar in terms of pricing and deals, and you're training them how to treat you in the future. So
Absolutely.
that's a very tactical example of where culture and those strategic decisions impact individual deals and individual successes of your rep.
Absolutely. That's a great example. What else is going on? For example, uh, the lack of alignment between marketing and sales, right? So one of the
Yeah.
discussions I've had with a lot of in this series that I'm talking to experts and people who you possibly know. One concern is that marketing is generating what they feel is the kind of lead that sales asked for, which means it's on an agreed ICP or whatever. Okay. And
Hmm.
sales comes back and says this is all garbage, right? This is this
Common response, I suppose,
exactly,
right?
exactly, right.
We've
Not
never heard
not my
we've
not
never
my
heard that
words.
before. Wait.
Yeah, exactly. Not my words at all. So where is it? So finally, it's a single organization which is producing, say, 5 products or one product, whatever. It doesn't matter. Which means we all know what is it that we are building, for whom we are building, what value we are proposing to offer in exchange of money, what we are trying to solve. We know that. So, where is this misalignment getting in from?
As I think about that question, my mind goes in a couple of different directions. So let me see if I can kind of pull together a couple of just sort of salient thoughts here. Um, I would say at a strategic level of an organization, marketing, lead generation, thought leadership, all of that, all the automation pieces, the sophistication and the availability of technology for marketing. You probably would know the research figures way better than I do, but just anecdotally has just skyrocketed. I think someone was showing a slide of all the different sales technology tools and companies that are out there. It's mind blowing what's out there for companies to lean on for marketing automation and sales process. But at a strategic level, do the marketing leaders and the sales leaders, do they have a good relationship, and are they talking together about what is most important for the organization? Um, then I would say at a maybe a lower level of the organization as a sales professional, do you have natural curiosity about what is happening in the marketing area of the organization? Have you taken the time to understand what marketing's processes are? Have they taken the time to understand what your processes are? And I'll give you a quick example to maybe bring this together. I recently worked with a client that's in the manufacturing space, and we were doing some, and we still are, some sales strategy work and some sales skill development work. And they had the brilliant idea, I give them all the credit for this, they had the brilliant idea of including their marketing team in the sales training that we were doing. So we had the group of sellers and we had the group of marketers. And what was so fantastic about that is that the marketers got to hear the challenges that the sales team were facing and how they approach things and to learn about the customers. And the sales team got to hear about the different initiatives that marketing was working on and how they can interact better together. And they built better relationships together because of it. So that's an example of where marketing and sales is coming together and could start to see some good synergies and outcomes. So finding ways to bring sales and marketing together, I find is in smaller organizations easier to do, of course, than larger organizations. But until the higher levels of the organization all the way down, you're not going to get alignment until everybody agrees that we should be working on this alignment together and then figuring out from there how to do it.
So good point to transition to the solution side, Amy. What do you think can fix this?
Yeah, sure. So if we go back to the kind of the broader picture question that we started with, which was how do we get on the road to fixing this challenge that we have around conversion rates? I'll offer up a couple of ideas. If I'm a sales leader in an organization, I want to know you want to know the brutal truth about what your current situation looks like. So how good is your data? So you want to know what the situation looks like. So without that knowledge, it's really hard to put anything in place to fix it,
Sure.
right? So that's where I would be starting. I would also be looking at what data can I understand about the sales performance of my team, the competencies of my team? Do I understand what their strengths and weaknesses are? Do I have the right people in the right roles for where I want to go into the future? So I would certainly start in those two places to get an understanding of where I am today and where I want to head. Because then once you do that, and then you have your metrics in place for where you want to be into the future, you can build out your roadmap to get there. And we won't solve the whole problem in today's conversation, but those are two places that I would encourage sales leaders to look at first.
If we sort of step back and look at a little more granular issue, for example, we can talk about the culture bit again, in terms of how do you build a culture. For example, the story you narrated, or the scenario you narrated, where to get over the target, whatever you call it, for the year, you now suddenly decide to lower your price, thereby changing the quality of customers that you're bringing in and so on, with the kind of expectations that customers would come in. What should have been the right response?
Good question. So in that particular scenario, so if I were the sales leader in that scenario, and let's say I'm a sales leader and I have a team of 10 people, and I have a quota number that I need to get to, and I am just short. And let's say I have 60 days to push it over the finish line. So I have some choices to make as a leader, and my team has some choices to make as well. So I think my approach in that scenario would be to go to my team and have them or I'd go into the CRM and pull the data, ideally, if it's good data. But what are the top 5 deals that you could get done this year that would help us get to this number? As a leader, it's like you got to bring people with you. That your team wants to help you be successful if you have a good relationship with them. If you're adversarial and combative and in taking those types of approaches, you're not going to get a lot of response out of your team. But if you really take from a cultural standpoint, we're in this together and we want to push this over the finish line, that's going to get you further faster. But tactically, I'd look at the top 5 deals for every rep and I would strategize or ask them to strategize. What does it make sense to try to pull a deal in? What are the levers that we can pull to do that? And what are the consequences of that? The consequences that we know and maybe the unintended consequences. And then we decide, all right, do we pull these levers to bring those deals in? It's way easier said than done when you're in a real life situation and you've got to get to that number. I've been in that spot as a sales professional, so I get it. It's easier said than done, but thinking through it into the future, that's an approach that I would suggest, encourage a sales leader to think through and to act on.
Absolutely. I think that makes sense. So paying heed to the culture that you signed up for becomes a key constituent of continued or sustained success.
Yes. And understanding the culture that you signed up for, I think, is the key there. If you've ever had a situation where you think you're going into an organization that is one way, and then you get in and you learn over time, that this isn't quite what I thought it was going to be. I know I've had that scenario. We probably have all had something like that happen to us. But knowing as much as you can going into it about what the culture is going to be can help you gauge how successful can I be, whether I'm in a leadership role or I'm a quota carrying sales professional.
Right, right. Where does this leave, for example, again, talking about the solution of actually trying to get to a better conversion rate? So to start with, I'll say if we can take it from 5 to 10%, so a single to double digit would mean 100% improvement in output, right?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
it's sort of a small step, but it's a big leap in a way.
Yeah. So if I'm thinking about that, if I'm at 5% today and I need to get to 10%, all right, what opportunities do I need to get to that 10%? I would be looking at my sales conversations that I'm having, just very, very tactically. How successful or unsuccessful are my sales conversations if I'm at this low conversion rate? And even if I double it to 10%, that's a very tactical place an impactful place, I would argue, to be looking at skills. So if I'm an individual or I'm leading a team of SDRs, I would be looking at their sales conversations. How are they structuring them? How are they leading them? Are they asking insightful, challenging questions? And how are they creating momentum from one conversation to the next? Most times when deals get stuck, there's lots of reasons why, but many times we're not doing our part in the sales conversation to create momentum and to move things forward. So that's a tactical place to look to help improve conversion rates and move things along and get them unstuck.
So the strategic question, which will possibly go along with this tactical solution, is that by the time we are actually talking to the customer, in many cases, they're really very long into the journey. There are scenarios where they're deciding on a particular investment, maybe setting up a plant or something for over 2 years. I mean, it's not something that they're into now. If you had to be involved, you should have been involved like 2 years back. And that's when you would have had the opportunity to really get into the things, the stuff that they're trying to solve, what new things they want to do in the new manufacturing plant, and so on and so forth. How do we start this journey with the buyer early, and thereby ensure that we have a role? I mean, we may still not get the deal because there'll be 2 other competitors who possibly had a better offering or whatever. But how do we ensure that you are really playing the game and you are not fodder for one more column in the comparison table?
Yes, isn't that the truth? If anybody's ever been the proverbial third bid in the in the deal, so there's a lot to unpack there. Let me see if I can shed some light and offer up some ideas. So if I let's say let's maybe look at this two different ways. Let's maybe first look at it from the perspective that this is a maybe it's an existing customer. It's someone that you've done some type of business with. They at least know who you are. Okay. So if this is a customer that's really a target for me to want to grow, and we have some type of name recognition, we have some type of relationship, maybe we've done some smaller deals. Taking a look at our processes around how well are we staying connected to the people that we know in those customers already. If we're only talking to them once a year, don't expect to be looped in to their their biggest problems and their biggest deals. You just haven't earned the right or the credibility to do that, in my opinion. If you are speaking with them on a regular basis, whether it's a quarterly business review, it's some kind of regular cadence where you are maybe doing some research for them, you are having these conversations with them and understanding what's happening into the future. You're doing your own research perhaps to understand where they might be headed. If they're a private company, that's a little harder, but it can still be done to some extent. You can only expect to be included in conversations as a seller when you put forth the effort first. If you're waiting for those things to come to you, it's not going to happen. Not in today's day and age. Too many decisions to be made, too much information out there, too many competitors that they see as competitors, even if you don't see them as competitors. So if it's an existing customer that I really want to target, I'm going to put some concerted effort into staying in front of the people that I know and finding other people to stay in front of my relationship ecosystem in that customer. A prospect is maybe a little different in the sense maybe they don't know you, maybe you don't have a relationship there. I'm a big fan of triggering events, and let's say you have 10 target customers that your company or prospects that your company's never done business with. How do you stay ahead of what's happening in those organizations? Things like, Google alerts or looking for triggering events, looking for changes happening in that organization. It may not always signify a specific opportunity, but it's greater odds of signifying an opportunity if you're paying attention to the triggering events happening in that organization or their industry. A lot of the deals that I work on, Subhanjan, are deals where I have brought the idea to the customer. Have you thought about this? I'm noticing this. Could we have a conversation on this? And opening the doors to the conversation, they're complex. It's multiple people, lots of relationships to be built. But some proactive thinking on the part of a seller to maybe uncover some opportunity where the opportunity isn't exactly obvious. So I said a lot there. Hopefully there's some ideas and some things that people can pull from that as they're thinking about their own customer sets and maybe their top target prospects.
I will have a quick follow-up question on that one. I think this is a great idea. I mean, great concept to go after. Who is going to do this? The sales leadership or the SDR? And do you think the SDRs were typically the newest member of the team? They're just out of college. They have been brought into, I don't know, for cold calling or whatever.
Yeah.
Who is going to actually do this? What you said. I can totally see the value of what you just said. But it possibly needs someone like you to pull that off. In which case it's not scalable. Or there has to be a process to be able to do this. I mean, there are enough tools. I mean, you mentioned about tools and landscapes. Martech landscape has 8,000 tools now, and sales tech has 1,500. Thank you very much. But
yeah, right. Thank you.
but having said that, who is going to do this?
So if an SDR is someone who is younger in his or her career, if it is a first role out of college, it is not likely going to be the SDR doing that.
Absolutely, yeah.
It is going to be a higher level role in the organization. It could be an account executive that's paired with an SDR, where it's a pairing, coaching, mentoring type of relationship. But that also means you have to have account executives who think this way. This is a different way of thinking. And back to your question, who's responsible for this? I hold a sales leader responsible for thinking differently and strategizing differently in this way. Because if you have $100 million deal on the table, I'm not going to rely on an SDR who is 1 or 2 years out of college and this might be his or her first role. That's not setting that person up for success. But they can be part of a team structure that the sales leader is responsible for helping to formulate, coach, hold accountable to. Accountability is one of the biggest challenges that I see in any organization, sales organization or otherwise. Sometimes it's personal accountability. Sometimes it's holding someone accountable as the leader. So I certainly would not have an expectation that a brand new green SDR who does not have industry experience or sales experience would not put that on his or her shoulders. I would want to be creating an environment as a sales leader that helps them to learn and grow, because if they have the right skills and they have the mindset that I want to have on my team, I want to keep them. And I want to create an environment where they can be successful and challenged. So I agree with you. An SDR is not necessarily going to take that on, but can you create a team environment as a sales leader that creates those results?
Wonderful. That's a great note to end this chat. I really enjoyed talking, because there is so much that we can still talk about, and I'm sure we will try and find another opportunity to sort of pick up on threads that we are leaving open today.
Excellent.
But Amy, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Subhanjan, thank you. It was a pleasure to be here.
Today, we speak with George Bronten, a lifelong entrepreneur with 20 years of experience in the software space and a passion for sales and marketing. With the life motto, "Don't settle for mainstream," George is always looking for new ways to achieve improved business results using innovative software, skills, and processes.
When we talk about sales leadership, and you've been around, this as well. I mean, sometimes we make the mistake, or the leaders of the company make the mistake of making their best salesperson into their sales manager or their sales leader. And that might be great if that person has the mentality and the mindset to become a great manager. But oftentimes you can be a real disservice to your company, because you're taking your best producer, and if he or she does not have the mindset to be a good coach and help others succeed, but is really driven to perform themselves, that will end up becoming a poor manager or leader, and you just lost your best performer.
We are very excited about the upcoming launch of our new community built to bridge the gap between buyers and sellers, Moxo. It is designed for buyers, sellers, and marketers to enable access to curated content, share ideas, and engage in conversations as a community. The space will be invite only, and if you want in, please write to us at moxo@pitch.link. That is MOXO@pitch.link. Time to wrap up for today. You will soon have access to the complete interviews in the Fixing the 5% Conversion Problem in B2B Sales and transcripts in the series. Keep an eye out for the link in the EXO newsletter. And thank you for watching. Until next time, stay well and craft extraordinary outcomes.